Merhaba arkadaşlar, merhaba. So this is your last video this semester, and it's a good one. We'll start with this subject matter this semester, probably continue next semester. So in this video, I will talk about verbal nouns. These are nouns derived from the verbs, as the name suggests, but they are not infinitives. Infinitives are quite different than verbal nouns. Verbal nouns are basically nouns, and you'll see in the sentences, the examples I'm going to talk about today, how they do act like nouns. Okay. In the end, you'll be able to say things like, I want my son to study hard. It's necessary for us to leave. There's no use waiting here. You see, in these examples, to study, to leave, waiting are used in place of nouns, in English too, right? So in Turkish, these are going to be verbal nouns. And they can be used as subjects or objects, okay? I will discuss making two ways of verbal nouns, two suffixes, ma and yish. For instance, gitmek, gitme is the verbal noun of gitmek. So, you attach me or ma to the verb stem, git, right? Gitme. Okumak, okuma. Konuşmak, konuşma. So, you might say that, oh, these look like negative imperative. You're right. But don't be, confused, because in sentence, in context, you'll not be confused between the two. It's never going to appear like infinitive. And finally, because it's a noun now, it can take case endings, and so depending on its function in the sentence. So let me give you an example. Arkadaşım İstanbul'a gitmeye karar verdi. My friend decided to go to Istanbul. Adam konuşmaktan yoruldu. The man got tired of talking. So you see that, gitmek takes dative, gitmeye, konuşmaktan, ablative. So you see, how they act like nouns. So an important function of verbal noun in Turkish appears with the possessive phrases. So you make verbal nouns possessive. For instance, benim gitmem, senin gitmen, onun gitmesi, and goes like that. So my going, your going, right? In the negative, it will be benim gitmemem, senin gitmemen, onun gitmemesi. So let's see, how they appear in sentences again. Senin buraya gelmen lazım. Your coming here is necessary. It's necessary that you come here. O benim ders çalışmamla ilgilenmiyor. He's not interested in my studying. Onun aramasını bekliyorum. I'm waiting for him to call. So notice when the verbal nouns are objects, like in the last example I gave you, onun aramasını bekliyorum. It can take case ending. Beklemek takes accusative, so aramasını, it is accusative, right? So there are ways to form verbal nouns out of non-verbal sentences, like predicates, and you're used to this by now with other examples we've done so far in this semester. For instance, Aslı öğretmen, Aslı'nın öğretmen olması. So olmak comes into picture in these sentences. So for positive, olması, let's see what happens in the negative. Ali evde değil, Ali'nin evde olmaması. Biz bu derste yokuz, with the existential. Bizim bu derste olmamamız. So it's the same thing, var olmak, yok olmamak. So you use olmak for these cases. So far, I talked about ma suffix. It's much more common. But there's also yish, and it acts in the same way. There's a slightly different meaning when you use yish instead of ma, to communicate the manner of which the action is carried out. All right. So, for instance, we talked about gitmek, ma suffix gitme. It's the going. It gives the meaning of going. If it is gidish, it means the way it's carried out, the way it's done. So let me give you an example. So I'm going to use yürümek. It becomes yürüyüş. Ayşe'nin yürüyüşü çok hızlı. Ayşe's walking is very fast. So you're talking about the way the action is taking place. Çocukların gülüşü herkesi çok memnun etti, or mutlu etti. The children's laugh made everyone happy. So, you know, I mean, and I think in your book, the example is kadının şarkı söyleyişi, the woman singing. Kadının şarkı söyleyişi çok güzel. The woman singing is very beautiful. So yes, I mean, usually if you use it this way, you're going to finish your sentence in the way the action carried out. Okay? But also, actually, you've seen examples of the use of yish before in vocabulary you've learned before. For instance, gidiş dönüş, çıkış, anlayış, alışveriş. Right? So in these verbs or words, the yish suffix appears, but because it became its own meaning now, I mean, nobody pays attention to yish anymore. I mean, you don't have to, it's just a footnote, okay? Your book introduces a very appropriate saying in Turkish for this subject matter. It's very common. Her yiğidin bir yoğurt yiyişi vardır. Every man has a way of eating yogurt. You're not surprised that everybody eats yogurt in Turkey. Not with fruit, the plain yogurt. So this is like a very good example of using yish. Yiyişi vardır. You know, the way it's eaten, the way the man eats the yogurt, right? So it means everybody has a way of doing their things on their own way. So it's a very common saying. So now you can use this for your own compositions, writings, okay? All right, so please review this subject matter in your books as well, do the exercises and so do your worksheet before coming to class this week. And if you have questions, we'll discuss them. Okay? Kolay gelsin. Görüşürüz.